Hello. I see you. Fucking see you there. People are watching me. What up, nerds? Neither. I thought I'd amuse myself by reading terrible books on Facebook Live. So I found my old Kindle the other day. I'm sorry. This is my old Kindle. This is the very, very nice case it's in. And I happen to know that on this Kindle there are some fucking... I don't know if it's deeply expensive wine. It is this wine. Mike and Meg gave it to me for feeding their cat a few weeks ago, and it's the wine that was in the house. And don't you fucking judge me for my quirky Pinterest mugs. They are beautiful, and go fuck yourself, cat. So anyway, trashy romance novels on my Kindle. The one that is suggested that I read to you is called Highest Bidder by Georgia LeCar. And this is probably going to be terrible. I might have to give up after a while. Oh god, this is terrible already. I do not do wine delivery, I'm sorry. This is the only wine I have in the house at the moment. I can technically go to Asda and buy more wine whenever I fucking want to, but I'm not doing that. So, Chapter 1, Freya. "Excuse me," the woman said loudly as I turned to leave the table. The tone usually only meant one thing. I'd messed up. With a sinking stomach, I turned back and faced her. She was using her knife to dig around the rocket leaves and cherry tomatoes on her plate. Didn't I specifically say I didn't want parmesan shavings on my salad? Okay, Karen. I showed her my apologetic face. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll take it back and get you another one." "What kind of waitress are you? It was just a simple salad and you couldn't even get that right." Like, does this woman know that waitresses don't make the salads? "I'm really sorry. I was sure I made a note of it. There could have been a mix-up in the kitchen. I'll just get another one for you. It won't be a minute, I promise." I picked up her plate and turned away. Excuse me," she calls, her voice now not only loud but sarcastic as well. Keeping my expression polite and solicitous, I turned to face her. "Shouldn't you take my husband's meal away too and put it under one of those hot lights to keep it warm? Is this supposed to be a romance or what? The fuck? This is just bad service in a restaurant." Okay, the husband doesn't want her to take his lasagna back. Where's the fucking sex here? Come on. Alfredo, the second chef, wants to know what's up. Table 21, she asked for no parmesan. It might have been my mistake. I can't remember if I wrote it down. He glanced at table 21, then completely lost his cool. "It is that fucking bitch again. Every time she comes here, there's always something wrong with her order." He crossed his arms over his chest and demanded, "What about the other dish then? What's wrong with that?" "Nothing. She just wants us to keep it hot while we make her another salad." "What a stupid bitch," he cursed, muttering ferociously to himself as he shoved the lasagna under the warmer and walked away with the salad. Taking out my pad, I flipped back to the order and saw from my carbon copy that it was my fault. I didn't note it down. That was the third mistake I'd made today. Maya, one of the other waitresses, stopped next to me. "What's up? You look like someone stole your last dollar." I winced. She had no idea how right her observation was. "I messed up table 21. "Don't worry about it. She's never happy, that one. I don't know how her husband puts up with her nonsense. I would have divorced her on the wedding day itself if I were him. He always looks so unhappy as well." "It was my fault, Maya," I admitted. "She told me and I didn't write it down." She touched my hand. "Hey, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. We all make mistakes." "Yeah, but 3 mistakes in 1 shift. I took a deep breath. I needed this job. I needed to concentrate. Oh my god. Okay, so she takes these fucking people their food and then goes home early. I don't. That was a whole chapter about this woman's inability to write down a fucking salad order. Right. 20 minutes later, she's gotten off a bus. Where has she been? Where does she live where she can get on a bus and within 20 minutes be at her destination? What the fuck? Martin, the bald-headed spectacled man who'd been my mum's loyal assistant during her socialite days when we had lots of money, had morphed into her new retail assistant. He was peering through the display window with a frown on his forehead. "What are you doing here, Missy?" he asked as I walked into the store. "I need to check out something that's in Mum's office," I said, and hurried towards the back of the store. Closing the door, I almost tripped over a stack of samples in my rush to get to my mum's messy desk of receipts and letters. I sat in her swivel chair and pulled open her drawer. Is this a euphemism? Oh my god. I was actually looking for her bank statement, but as I opened the second drawer, my eyes connected with a strange document. Curiously, I picked it up, and I thought my heart had come to a stop in my chest. No, no, no! I reread it, and I still couldn't believe what I was seeing. I fished my phone from my pocket and dialed my mother. She picked up on the fifth ring. "I'm at the food hall for some groceries," she said cheerfully. "Mum, I'm in your office," I said to her. "Why are you?" She paused when she realised what my statement meant. "What are you doing in my office?" "Did you mortgage Grandma's home to open the boutique?" For a few seconds there was silence, then she spoke. "Yes." Oh God, I thought that was going to be a more interesting secret. Oh. Even my own friends wouldn't dream of coming to see me if I'd opened this boutique in Brixton or Peckham. Okay, this really dates it, because Brixton and Peckham are kind of happening these days. Suddenly it was too much. The university calling me, the salad woman looking at me as if I was a total idiot, and now this. My voice broke as tears rolled down my cheeks. "How could you do this without telling me, Mum? We talked about it, and I told you opening a boutique at a time when everyone's shopping online is pure madness." Again, this is supposed to be a romance. Okay, she's arguing with her mother. Where is the dick? Okay, she's still arguing with her mother. Oh, her mother bought caviar from the food hall as well. "It's your favourite," she said, looking confused, as if she couldn't understand why I was being so unreasonable. I couldn't hold back the agony any longer. "Yes!" I screamed. "When Dad was alive, and when we were bloody rich, and we weren't on the brink of being fucking homeless." "It's only a 30-gram tin," she muttered. Okay, they're arguing about caviar. The fuck are these people? Who even eats caviar? Gazing at her small frame and bedazzled turban made me feel a strange mix of admiration and exasperation. She refused to cower down to the lowly status my father's death had brought us to. She looked nothing like an impoverished widow. Her robe was the finest silk, her ears glistening with diamond studs, and her house slippers were made out of some kind of special material that was imported from a llama-growing country. Okay, this girl's gone to get on the bus again. Now she's gone to see her friend. Sansa wants to be involved. That's good. Okay, she's gone to her friend's house, and she is crying because her mother took out a loan and bought caviar. A lot of this is really extraneous detail. Okay, she says to her friend, "Have you forgotten?" she asked airily. "I'm on a mission to find a stinkingly rich idiot." "We're still on that project?" I asked, looking away. "Bagging a rich guy so I don't have to lift a finger for the rest of my life? Yes, we are." "No, that was what my mum did," I commented quietly. 24 years later, she's a struggling widow about to be homeless. The room turned so silent I could hear the winter wind as it blew past, and footsteps of strangers passing on ground level above the basement apartment. Maddie began. I turned just in time to see her share a perplexed look with Ella. Ella joined me on the couch. "You're about to be homeless." Maddie came over to sit at my feet. "It's almost certain. Mum mortgaged the apartment to open the store 6 months ago." "No, how did you find out?" "My university called to say Mum's cheque had bounced, so I went to her office this evening to look at her bank statement. While I was there, I saw the mortgage documents." "What did your mum say?" I shrugged. What could she say? Anyway, I'm convinced she's deliberately refusing to understand what's going on, like she's still shopping at the food hall in Harrods. When I called her, she knew I'd be pissed, so she went all out and got me beluga caviar and steamed eggs to appease me. Damn, Ella used a hand to hide her smile. Your mum is adorable. Okay, her friends are clueless. Okay, like 6 pages later, she's still being sad about money. It's all right, I consoled both her and myself. It's not a big deal, just a small hiccup. I'll get through it. I'll drop out of uni, it'll all be fine. That's when Ella suddenly dropped her bombshell. I know how you can get at least £50,000 overnight. Maddie sat up from her beanbag while my eyes narrowed with a mixture of scepticism and dangerous hope. For the longest time, none of us said a word. Maddie and me because we didn't know what to make of Ella's statement, and Ella because she was milking every last drop of drama from the situation. "Are you joking?" Maddie asked, finally. "Why would I?" Ella shot back. "How?" I noticed a slight vein bulging in Ella's temple. That was her mark of honesty. She wasn't kidding. "Yeah, how?" Maddie asked, her eyes filled with curiosity. If Ella had any hope of using the same method for herself, they were immediately dashed by Ella's next words. "You can't participate, Maddie, and neither can I. Only Freya can." "Why's that then?" Maddie asked. Her tone had become cynical. "Do I have to sell along or something?" I asked. "Not exactly." I immediately sat up. "Then what do I have to sell?" Ella hesitated, her gaze roving between Maddie and I. "Think. What is it you have that Maddie doesn't?" "Fucking talk, for the love of God," Maddie exploded. "Calm down," Ella chuckled. "It's just a virginity auction." "The hell are you talking about?" Maddie asked. "Haven't you heard? It's a big thing now. Instead of just giving it away, lots of girls are selling it at auction." She got up and headed to the refrigerator. "Hang on a minute," Maddie squealed suddenly. "Freya's still a virgin?" Both Ella and I turned to frown at her. She covered her mouth with a hand in amusement. "Sorry, I always thought you were messing about." Ella returned with a bowl of grapes. "Can you please stop giving it to us in dribs and drabs and just spit it out?" Maddie said, her eyes flashing with impatience. "Hold your horses, girl. I'm just about to do exactly that. The auctions are held in this very exclusive club. It's called the Blue Butterfly. I heard of it from a friend." I immediately lost interest at the hearsay tag, but Maddie's interest diminished not a bit. 50,000 just for a night? You're exaggerating." "I'm not," Ella replied. 30,000 is usually what an intact hymen goes for. Oh my god. This is... But some girls, the really beautiful ones, have walked away with 50, 60, even 70 grand. The sky's the limit. It just depends on the girl and how badly the guy wants her. With Freya's figure and looks, I don't see why she shouldn't achieve a high sum either. Maddie was stunned speechless, whereas I didn't believe a word of this. "It's actually happened to your friend?" "No, her friend's sister." "Yeah, right, friend of a friend," she said, making air quotes. I know it sounds totally unbelievable, but honestly, she's a straight kind of person. I wouldn't mention it otherwise. "What exactly does it entail?" Maddie asked. Ella plopped a grape in her mouth. Plopped. "It's a club owned by this mysterious and secretive billionaire. You have to be someone in the inner circle to be a member. Its main activity is to promote experiences of extreme pleasure, whatever that means. But that, of course, has nothing to do with the virgin thing. That's special, I believe, once a month event at the club." "The girls go through an auction?" Maddie asked. "Yeah," Ella replied. Maddie inched closer to her and hung on to her every word. I fished out my phone to check the message coming through. It was my mother apologising. I put the phone back in my pocket. I was beginning to feel slightly ill in the pit of my stomach. I looked up and saw Ella watching me intently. Girls can auction off their virginity to the highest bidder. All they have to do is set a reserve price, and from there onwards the price can get as high as the market decides. An ex-Ukrainian... Surely that should be a Ukrainian ex-beauty queen. Walked off with 150,000. An Arab prince bought her. An Arab prince? Maddie asked. So after you're bought, what happens? Okay, I don't know all the details, but from what she told me, you spend the night with the man, soil the club's sheets, and leave when it's over. It's in the club's rules that you can't be forced to do anything sick or violent unless you both mutually agree on that. You're also advised to use a condom. Since the whole affair takes place at the club, security is provided, unless of course both you and the client insist on taking it elsewhere, which is not recommended, and you have to sign a document releasing them of all liabilities if anything should happen to you. After that one night, you never have to meet up with him again, unless you want to, of course. Oh, and because it's all celebrities, billionaires and royalty that attend these auctions, you sign an NDA. Maddie nodded. So I'm assuming a doctor's physical exam is involved somewhere, otherwise anyone could just lie that they're a virgin, right? Ella turned to her in surprise. You're surprisingly detailed in mischief. Oh my god, this is terrible. Okay, her mother's eaten caviar. I'm skipping ahead. Yep, she's still arguing with her mother. Now she's arguing with her friends. Now she's arguing with her mother. Oh my god, this is terrible. Here we go. At 10:56 p.m. on the third Saturday in December, Ella accompanied me to the club, dressed all in black in her role of my bodyguard. Her no-nonsense military boots, baggy outfit, and sinister visage promising to do damage to anyone who manhandled me, beyond what they'd pay for, had been exactly the comic relief I'd needed to get my legs working out of the house. The Blue Butterfly Club was so well hidden in an obscure street in the city that we had to go into a dingy umbrella shop to inquire about the address I'd been given. Just read this exactly as it's written. An Oriental woman smiled sweetly at me and said we were indeed already in the club. She pointed at a black door that led to the back, but told us only I could go through to the club, though. Ella immediately dragged me out of the shop onto the sidewalk. I really don't like this cloak and dagger stuff. Are they a club or an umbrella shop? I mean, why is it hidden in an umbrella shop? I'm beginning to think there's something very fishy about this. I don't know if it's legal. No, sex work is not legal. It has to be billionaires, and it has to be if billionaires and celebrities are taking part, I countered reasonably. I don't like secretive things, she huffed. I'm here now and I'm doing it, Ella, I insisted stubbornly. If you don't text or call me in 3 minutes that all's well, I'm calling the police, she fumed before turning her face towards the surveillance camera above us and yelling, I'm calling the police on all of you if you hurt her. I'll be waiting right here until she comes out. She turned back to me. And they're not joking either. Look, you can't wait here for hours. Just go home. I'll be okay. I'll call you if anything seems out of place. The Oriental woman pressed a buzzer and the black door opened. There's a nice room behind it. I genuinely thought this would be more interesting. Disappointment. Oh, here we go. I thought she was going to lock me in the room, but she didn't. I breathed a sigh of relief. Before I could even properly investigate my surroundings, there was a gentle tap at the door. An old woman entered. Her face was deeply lined, and it surprised me to think of such an old woman working in a place like this. She made a movement with her hands to indicate I should undress. Okay, I said awkwardly, started to take my clothes off. I stopped at my bra and panties. All, she said impatiently. When I was naked, she led me through a door into a tiled room with a huge Japanese-style wooden tub. She sat me on a wooden bench and proceeded to strip every last hair on my body by rubbing a sticky brown mixture over every inch of my skin. She even worked her mixture around my butthole, which was embarrassing to say the least. I nearly died of shock when she started pouring icy water that she'd scooped from the wooden tub over my head. Cold water's good for you, she said. This old lady appears to be written in some kind of terrible English dialect that I'm not even going to try. I froze and shivered as I thought of how happy my mother would be when I solved all our problems with the money I made from this club. To my surprise, I got used to the cold very quickly, and by the time she massaged hot, fragrant oil into my body, I was feeling very relaxed and expansive. Draped in a white toweling robe, I was taken back to the room where a makeup artist was waiting with her bag of tricks. I sat before the mirror framed with light bulbs, and she worked her magic. I'd had my makeup done. I basically wore nothing except a sheer negligee and a black thong I'd been given to wear. I regretted having cut my waist-length hair before I started my waitressing job. It was too short to cover my nipples. "Are you ready to join the other girls backstage?" the makeup artist asked. Stage? Jesus. I took a deep breath and assured myself once again that all would be well. I could do this. It would be nothing compared to what awaited Mum if I didn't. I was taken to a large room where there were 6 other girls, and like me, they'd all been beautifully made up, were wearing the same type of negligee, and were barefoot. "Gather round, girls," a voice said briskly from behind me. The accent was full-blown aristocratic, and I looked around in surprise and saw a silver-haired woman. Her sophistication in a velvet skirt suit and a French cardigan surpassed even that of my mother at the height of my father's wealth. She, more than anything else that had happened to me, surprised me. I'd expected the whole transaction to be suspect and sordid, but thus far everything and everyone seemed to be dripping in luxury. She proceeded to address us. "I believe you have all already signed your NDAs, so I may take this opportunity to remind you how serious it is. If you ever reveal or try to sell any information to the media about this club, the things you witness here, or the identities of the people you meet here, the club will bring the full force of the law upon you." No, that's not how this works. No, I give up. This romance novel is not sexy in the slightest. Ugh. I'm gonna drink my mug wine. Tonight we have a special guest star, little kitty cat. Oh yeah, viewer count goes up when I put the cat on camera, doesn't it? I gave up on the terrible romance novel. It was just not very good. There was a lot of scene setting and literally 4 chapters of her arguing with her mum about money and food shopping, and I don't really understand why anyone thinks that that's sexy. Yeah, it was very food fixated. It reminds me of so Yoda put up a quote from a book they're reading at the moment the other day, which was about crispy chicken which had a light succulent batter and the right amount of resistance, just like an eager but shy virgin on her wedding night, which was just weirdly fucking like, oh, so problematic. But it's like, why are women like food? Why are you describing women like KFC? I don't understand. And the word "plopped a grape in your mouth" should not feature in a romance novel, ever. That woman needs a fucking editor. Anyway, my cat is currently trying to rip my sofa apart. How are you all doing? I'm going slightly out of my mind, and I'm drinking mug wine, so, you know, that's how my evening's going. Cheers. Sansa, come here. Okay, she's gonna hit me now. Fight. I'll fucking fight you. Yeah. I'll fight. Kath, drink the good wine. You know you want to. Actually, no, last time I told you to drink wine, it ended weirdly. So this live stream was me reading a really, really terrible romance novel that was more interested in describing food than it was sex. And now it's turned into me having a boxing match with my cat. Come here. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm going kind of loopy, and the world's ending, so that's the thing. Well, the world's not ending, the world will be fine, but everything's gotten kind of weird, you know? But I have this cat, so that's good. Okay. You're purring, and you're scratching the sofa, and you're hitting me. I have no idea what mood you're in. So, yeah. I'm just gonna sit here and drink this mug wine. It's been a weird week. I don't really know what I was hoping to get out of this. Well, no, I was hoping to read a vaguely amusing sex book from my terrible old Kindle library. But if any of my Facebook videos are going to be a relic of our lost civilization, I really hope it's the one where I set my living room on fire and then get excited and show everyone my dirt. I feel like that's really the crowning moment of my Facebook Live career. I do have a copy of Grimm's Fairy Stories on my Kindle. What have we got on here? Water of Life. Once upon a time there was a king who was so ill that everybody despaired of his life, and his 3 sons were very sorry, and went out into the palace gardens to weep. There they met an old man, who asked the cause of their grief, and they told him their father was so ill that he must die, for nothing could save him. The old man said, "I know a means of saving him. If he drinks of the water of life, it will restore him to health, but it's very difficult to find." "I'll soon find it," said the eldest son, and going to the sick king, he begged his permission to set out in search of the water of life, which alone could save him. "No, the danger is too great," said the king. "I prefer to die." Nevertheless, the son begged and entreated so long that the king consented, and the prince went away, thinking in his own heart, "If I bring this water, I am the dearest to my father, and I shall inherit the kingdom." After he'd ridden a long way, he met a dwarf on the road, who asked him, "Whither away so quickly?" "You stupid dandy prat," replied the prince proudly. "Why should I tell you that?" And he rode off. Dandy Prat, new favourite insult. The little man was angry, and he wished an evil thing, so that soon after the prince came into a narrow mountain pass, and the farther he rode, the narrower it grew, till at last it was so close that he could get no farther. But neither could he turn his horse round nor dismount, and he sat there like one amazed. Meanwhile, the sick king waited a long while for him, but he did not come, and the second son asked leave to go and seek the water, for he thought to himself, if my brother is dead, and the kingdom comes to me. At first the king refused to spare him, but he gave way, and the prince set out on the same road as the elder one had taken, and also met the same dwarf, who stopped him and asked, "Whither ride you so hastily?" "Little dandy Prat," replied the prince, "what do you want to know for?" And he rode off without looking round. The dwarf, however, enchanted him, and it happened to him as it had to his brother. He came to a defile where he could not move neither forward nor backward. Such is the fate of all haughty people. Now when the second son did not return, the youngest begged leave to go and fetch the water, and the king was obliged at last to give his consent. When he met the dwarf and was asked whither he was going so hurriedly, he stopped and replied, "I seek the water of life, for my father is sick unto death." "Do you know where to find it?" asked the dwarf. "No," replied the prince. "Since you've behaved yourself as you ought," said the dwarf, "and not haughtily like your false brothers, I will give you information and show you where you may obtain the water of life. It flows from a fountain in the court of an enchanted castle, into which you can never penetrate if I do not give you an iron rod and 2 loaves of bread. With the iron rod knock thrice at the iron doors of the castle, and it will spring open. Within lie 2 lions with open jaws, but if you throw down to each a loaf of bread, they will be quiet. Then hasten and fetch some of the water of life before it strikes 12, then the door will shut again, and you'll be imprisoned." The prince thanked the dwarf, and taking the rod and bread, he set out on his journey. As he arrived at the castle, he found it as the dwarf had said. At the third knock the door sprang open, and when he'd stilled the lions with the bread, he walked into a fine large hall where sat several enchanted princes, from whose fingers he drew off the rings. He also took away with him a sword and some bread which lay there. A little farther on he came to a room wherein stood a beautiful maiden, who was so pleased to see him that she kissed him and said he had freed her, and should have her whole kingdom, and if he came in another year their wedding should be celebrated. Then she told him where the fountain of water of life was placed, and he hastened away lest it should strike 12 ere he gained it. He came next into a room where a fine clean covered bed stood, and being tired he lay down to rest himself a bit. But he went to sleep, and when he awoke it struck the 11:15, and the sound made him hurry to the fountain, from which he took some water in a cup that stood near. This done, he hastened to the door, and was scarcely out before it struck 12, and the door swung to so heavily that it carried away a piece of his heel. Ow! But he was very glad, in spite of this, that he'd procured the water. He journeyed homeward, and passed again where the dwarf stood. When the dwarf saw the sword and bread which he'd brought away, he declared he'd done well, for with the sword he could destroy whole armies, but the bread was worth nothing. Now, the prince was not willing to return home to his father without his brothers, and so he said to the dwarf, "Dear dwarf, can you tell me where my brothers are? They went out before me in search of the water of life, and did not return." "They are stuck fast between 2 mountains," replied the dwarf. "Because they were so haughty, I enchanted them there." Then the prince begged for their release, till at last the dwarf brought them out, but he warned the youngest to beware of them, for they had evil in their hearts. When his brothers came, he was very glad, and he related to them all that had happened to him, how he'd found the water of life and brought away a cupful of it, how he'd rescued a beautiful princess who for a whole year was going to wait for him, and then he was to return to be married to her and receive a rich kingdom. After this tale, the 3 brothers rode away together, and soon entered a province where there was war and famine raging. And the king thought he should perish, so great was his necessity. The youngest prince went to this king and gave him the bread, with which he fed and satisfied his whole people. Then the prince gave him the sword, wherewith he defeated and slew all his enemies and regained peace and quiet. This effected, the prince took back the bread and sword, and rode on further with his brothers. And by they came to 2 other provinces where also war and famine were destroying the people. To each king the prince lent his bread and sword, and so saved 3 kingdoms. After this they went to board a ship to pass over the sea, which separated them from home. And during the voyage the 2 elder brothers said to one another, "Our brother has found the water of life, and we have not. Therefore our father will give the kingdom which belongs to us to him, and our fortune will be taken away." Indulging these thoughts, they became so envious that they consulted together how they should kill him. And one day, waiting till he was fast asleep, they poured the water out of his cup and took it for themselves, while they filled up his cup with bitter salt water. As soon as they arrived at home, the youngest brother took his cup to the sick king, that he might drink out of it and regain his health. But scarcely had he drunk a very little of the water, when he became worse than before, for it was bitter as wormwood. While the king lay in this state, the 2 elder princes came and accused their brother of poisoning their father. But they brought the right water, and they handed it to the king. Scarcely had he drunk a little out of the cup when the king felt his sickness leave him, and soon he was as strong and healthy as in his young days. The 2 brothers went to the youngest prince, mocking him and saying, "You certainly found the water of life, but you had the trouble and we had the reward. You should have been more cautious and kept your eyes open, for we took your cup while you were asleep on the sea, and moreover, in a year one of us intends to fetch your princess. Beware, however, that you betray us not, the king will not believe you. If you say a single word, your life will be lost, but if you remain silent, you're safe." The old king, nevertheless, was very angry with his youngest son, who, as he believed, had conspired against his life. He caused his court to be assembled, and sentence was given to the effect that the prince should be secretly shot. And once he rode out hunting, unsuspicious of any evil, the huntsman was sent with him to perform the deed. By and by, when they were alone in the wood, the huntsman seemed so sad that the prince asked what ailed him. The huntsman replied, "I cannot and must not tell you." "Tell me boldly what it is," said the prince, "and I will forgive you." "Ah, it's no other than I must shoot you, for so has the king ordered me," said the huntsman with a deep sigh. The prince was frightened and said, "Let me live, dear huntsman, let me live. I will give you my royal coat, and you shall give me yours in exchange." To this the huntsman readily assented, for he felt unable to shoot the prince. And after they had exchanged their clothing, the huntsman returned home, and the prince went deeper into the wood. A short time afterwards, 3 wagons laden with gold and precious stones came to the king's palace for his youngest son. They were sent by the 3 kings in token of gratitude for the sword which had defeated their enemies and the bread which had nourished their people. At this arrival, the old king said to himself, "Perhaps, after all, my son was guiltless," and he lamented to his courtiers that he had let his son be killed. But the huntsman cried out, "He lives yet. I could not find it in my heart to fulfill your commands." And he told the king how it had happened. The king felt as if a stone had been removed from his heart, and he caused it to be proclaimed everywhere throughout his dominions that his son might return and would again be taken into favour. Meanwhile, the princess has caused a road to be made up to her castle of pure shining gold, and she told her attendants that whoever should ride straight up this road would be the right person, and one who they might admit to the castle. But on the contrary, whoever should ride not up on the road, but by the side, they were ordered on no account to admit, for he was not the right person. When therefore the time came round which the princess had mentioned to the youngest prince, the eldest brother thought he would hasten to her castle and announce himself as her deliverer, that he might gain her as a bride in the kingdom besides. So he rode away, and when he came in front of the castle and saw the fine golden road, he thought it would be a shame to ride thereon, and so he turned to the left hand and rode up, out of the road. But as he came up to the door, the guards told him he was not the right person, and he must ride back out again. Soon afterward the second prince also set out, and he likewise, when he came upon the golden road, he and his horse set his 4 feet upon it, thought it would be a pity to travel upon it, so he turned aside to the right hand and went up. When he came to the gate, the guards refused him admittance and told him that he was not the person expected and had to return home. The youngest prince, who had all this time been wandering about in the forest, had also remembered that the year was up. And soon after his brother's departure, he appeared before the castle and rode up straight on the golden road, for he was so deeply engaged in thinking of his beloved princess that he did not observe it. As soon as he arrived at the door, it was opened, and the princess received him with joy, saying he was her deliverer and the lord of her dominions. Soon after, their wedding was celebrated, and when it was over, the princess told her husband that his father had forgiven him and desired to see him. Thereupon he rode to the old king's palace and told him how his brothers had betrayed him while he slept and had sworn him to silence. When the king heard this, he would have punished the false brothers, but they had prudently taken themselves off in a ship, and they never returned home afterwards. Wow, that was... The moral of the story is run away and it'll be fine. You know, what have I done to the camera? There we go. Yeah, so the moral of that story is run away before shit gets hard and stuff will just kind of work itself out. Yeah. Well, the Grimm's fairy tales were better than the terrible, terrible, terrible romance novel I tried to read. But, you know, we'll happily take suggestions for other things. There's a kid cat. I can't see the kid. There's the kid cat. Okay, well, there's a cat arsehole. Look at that. Hey, Beaker. I touch my face a lot. We shouldn't be doing this because reasons. It is only since I've started video chatting people a lot more that I've realised I touch my face so much. Yeah. That noise is my cat clawing at the sofa. Come here. Come on. Come here. You're welcome, Ollie. I know that's really what people tune in for. It's buttholes. Say hello to your people. Oh, you don't give a shit, do you? No, I don't think so. So, I was watching a BBC News, like, quite a podcast thing. It was just like a news night random chat thing. Good job, Jono. Good job. Yeah, and there's this lady on the news was like, yes, we touch our face to soothe ourselves, and that's why you touch your face, because you're trying to soothe yourself when you're panicking. So of course, when everyone's really, really anxious, we're going to want to touch our faces more. You can't spell arsehole, but you are an arsehole, so it kind of evens out. But yeah, so being asked not to touch our faces to soothe ourselves when something a bit stressful is happening is just frankly absurd. Listen to this purr. Yeah. You see another cat butt? Cat butt. There is no point to this live stream, by the way. I'm not doing anything interesting. I'm sitting on my sofa drinking wine out of a quirky Pinterest mug. But you know, somewhere in the world there's going to be a Facebook server with a copy of this on it forever. I'm not even drunk, Lou. This is my first wine, and it wasn't actually full when I started. I have drunk that much wine, which is really not that much. I don't need to put Jono in the bin. He is a bin. Yes, this is the new going down the pub. I presume we can all do this, and then it'll be like who was dominating the conversation that evening. Oh, it was Monica being drunk and being like weirdly philosophical about cat anuses and reading terrible stories. Yeah. I was quite tempted to go out for an apocalypse pint tonight, but then I was like, no, I'll get the plague. I could go play on the swings. That might be fun. I doubt there's any kids in the playground right now. I mean, it's probably covered in coronavirus, but frankly, I'm going to get it at some point anyway, so... Oh. Do you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go out to the playground. I could already have the plague, that is very true. I guess I'm one of those nefarious asymptomatic carriers if I do, because I feel absolutely fine, aside from being bored shitless. What's that? That's a fucking power bank. Where are my shoes? Shoes. What have I done with my shoes? Literally nobody knows. I'm sure I was wearing shoes earlier because I drove to Blackwall Hospital earlier and I was wearing shoes at that point in my life. Oh, I know, I'll be upstairs. Right, well, I'm not going upstairs, I'll just wear different shoes. I'll wear the most boring shoes in the world. Want to see the most boring shoes in the world? Check this out. Fucking boring. Let's put you lot down for a sec. I'm putting my coat on because it's fucking cold outside right now. Oh, snuggly coat, snuggly coat. Right. Let's do this. I'm gonna need more wine. Okay, I've got a mug of wine. I've got my tablet. I've got my house keys. Nice. Let's do this. Coming outside. I'll have to put my wine down. Lock my front door. It is a lovely coat. It's very warm and it makes me happy. Okay, right. Wine. Cheers. This is just me being bored shit. I can't fucking see, there's no lights here. This was a brilliant idea. Whose genius idea was this? Oh wait, it was mine. Go me. Right. I'm gonna sit on this swing. Fuck. Hello. Is it working yet? Am I back? Can you hear me? Say banana if you can hear me. It's really nice out here. So, hey! Look, I'm doing what I can. I'm kind of now stuck in a swing in a kid's playground with a mug of wine and a tablet. Yay! Fuck. I literally can't sit up. Fuck. Fuck. Okay, here we go. I might restart this. Bear with me.